Like it does, but we're fine. They said they're gonna figure it out back.
They were. Fred, are you ready?
Only because I left mine at home. I brought the board meeting one.
All right.
I miss you.
Good morning. So we will now call this, I almost said January, December 13th, 2022 work session to order. And I will start by reading our Who Are We statement. We are the Polk County Leadership Governance Team. If we were to pick one phrase to define us, it would be student-centered, because when we come together to work, we lean on our diverse backgrounds and experiences to ensure that our decisions are focused on providing a high-quality education for all students. The four most important things to our governance team are operating with integrity, respecting our students, staff, families, and each other, establishing a culture where our stakeholders feel valued, supported, and have opportunities for personal and professional growth, and supporting an approach of continuous improvement to ensure student outcomes. Collectively, we need to work on behalf of the children we serve and find avenues of agreement so that we can govern the district in an effective manner. There is no acceptable alternative. We will always collaborate in a respectful manner in order to enhance opportunities for each student and staff member. We will not disparage others. Our students will thrive because we will remain committed to supporting the whole child. We hope to engage and empower our students and stakeholders to create a community of lifelong learners. And with that, I will turn it over to Superintendent Hyde.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board, members and staff. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Our first item up today, as you know, our first two items are community-based partners. And at this time, I'd like to bring Chanel Bellotto, President, Owner, Operator, Manager of Skate World, up to the podium, where she will outline their partnership, existing partnership and relationship with Polk County Public Schools. A little bit of background knowledge and reference. I had the opportunity to meet Ms. Bellotto recently, and we were able to talk, and Skate World in particular utilizes a STEM approach for students to come there and do several STEM experiments and studies while they get the opportunity to skate. So at this time, it's all yours, ma'am.
Thank you for that introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Chanel Bellato. I'm the owner of Skate World. And thank you for inviting me to come today and just talk about roller skating. And I have a really fun job. And I am continuing a legacy from my grandfather and my father. So you can see our mission statement is that we create memorable experiences for all ages by providing a safe, fun, clean, and family atmosphere for families and friends to all enjoy. And we truly strive for that. Just a little bit of history. My grandfather opened the first skating rink in the early 70s, and it was up near the hospital. And in 1973, he purchased the building where we are now. And my grandfather was also a Methodist minister, so he was juggling both of those. And along comes my dad, and he marries my mom in 1977, and my dad purchased the skating rink from my grandfather. And my mom and dad worked effortlessly providing opportunities for schools and churches and children to come to the skating rink. And my dad had a very successful business for 30 years. 2007, my dad passed away very unexpectedly, and I took over, not planning to ever run the skating rink. I had told my dad, I don't want to do it. I was in politics, actually. And I said, when you retire, you'll have to sell the skating rink and move on and do the things you want to do. So God had a different plan. And I embraced the skating rink. And in 2007, I took over and started to make improvements. And these are just a small list of the improvements. The first thing I had to do was the roof because we had water leaking on the floor. And each year we continue to make wonderful improvements. In 2011, we poured a new floor. It was a $100,000 investment. And I have truly looked at it as everything my dad did was perfect in my eyes. I've just added a woman's touch. So it's really pretty and it's really clean. This is a video of some skaters at the skating rink. It shows our skate mates, which are these great little, they're like walkers on wheels. And the kids, we have different heights. We even have adults that come in and say, do you have one tall enough for me? And they build confidence, they help with balance. So we're providing a safe environment for folks. Now in 2015, the National Roller Skating Association International came out with a program relating STEM concepts with roller skating, but also everyday life. And so I was the third person to buy the program. Some of my peers who have much larger skating rinks outside of Atlanta and Houston and these big cities said, Chanel, are you sure that you want to take on such an expensive program? And I mean, don't you want to kind of let the big guys take care of it first and see how it works? And I said, no, this is something I want for our community. This will be great for our students. So I'm going to invest in it. And I went and met with Deputy Superintendent John Small at the time, and he helped me facilitate getting into the schools. We started a pilot program, and that first year we had a handful of schools, and every year we have grown. Now we're working with the district liaisons, and we just have such a great relationship with them. I was asked to be principal for a day and got to do that, so that was super fun. But the STEM program is really neat. We have over 10 different lessons that relate roller skating with STEM concepts in everyday life. We have hands-on activities, so the students get to take apart a roller skate, or maybe they get to practice Newton's laws of motion with rolling a skate on a hard surface or the carpeted surface. And it really is, we have Spook Hill Elementary there today. We have first graders. And yesterday we had Hillcrest Elementary. Tomorrow we have someone else. So it's before the holidays. So everybody's trying to get in their STEM field trips. So it really is a great program. Since 2015, we've averaged about 4,000 students annually. The program is for kindergarten through 12th grade. And nationwide, we have taught over 1.5 million students across skating rinks across the U.S. The one thing that I really am excited to tell you about is our grant funding, and Superintendent Hyde mentioned that. So in 2015, when we started the program, I had some folks talking to me, and I was just excited to tell them about my program, and they said, how can we help? And I said, well, Title I schools, they might not have the opportunity to attend a field trip. And they said, okay, well, put together a proposal. We'll think about helping you out. So I wrote a proposal, and that first year, we started with 3 schools exactly, and the 3 schools had it was just a super success story. To date, we have $73,000 in funding for our Title I schools so that these students can come and participate in these field trips. It also includes transportation, so it truly does not cost the student anything to attend. They get to come to the STEM program. They have a 45-minute STEM lesson. Then we give them a roller skating lesson because a lot of kids have never even been to our facility. We hand out wrist guards, and we give them the skate mates, and they skate for a couple of hours and just really get to have a good time and enjoy. Another great thing that we do is fundraising. So every Thursday night, we have fundraisers. A school, a church, or non-for-profit just books a night with us and says, okay, this is our night. And they go out in the community and try to promote their event. And then we give back 25% of admission, rental, and cafe. That is my way to give back to the community, and it's been super successful. I actually found a thank you note from Lincoln Avenue Academy back in the 80s to my mom and dad saying thank you for the fundraiser that you all did for us. These are, I could not name all of the partnerships that we have with our schools, but in front of you is a list of all of the schools that we have worked with over the last several years, and it's a great list. And I'm proud of this list, and I feel like we have worked with almost every single school in Polk County. We also do birthday parties. Birthday parties is a big thing at Skate World. I had all of my birthday parties there growing up. These are actually my boys. They have all of their birthday parties, Trey and Jackson, so it is just a really fun environment. We also do special sessions like a Christian skate on the second Sunday of every month. We'll have Christmas hours during the school break when the kids are out of school. It's advertised. Anytime there is a public school holiday, Skate World is open. And we're open from 12 to 4. So we try to even help those parents out when their kids aren't at school. It gives them a fun and affordable activity to do. We are still very, very affordable. It's $6 to come in to skate during those sessions. And then we have our New Year's Eve. We're going to do a confetti countdown. So we're constantly doing fun things at the skating rink. Of course, I could not do it without my employees. I tend to hire 16 and 17-year-olds. It's their first job. And, you have to be patient, but you have to teach them accountability and responsibility. And I love working with young people. And we had our Christmas party last night. And it really is so rewarding to work with students, but also work with young people in providing job opportunities. And then I also have my skate coach who is 75. So we range from 16 to 75. And Joe can probably do a triple axel in the air, and I can't even do that. So he's super impressive. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much for having me. And if any of you have any questions that you would like to ask about our facility or the history or our STEM program, I would welcome that. Thank you very much.
See anybody indicating an interest in speaking?
All right, thank you everyone.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
The next item before us is the Carol Jenkins Barnett United Way of Child Resource Center presentation.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Jeanette, for inviting me. Gretchen Soranic, and I am with United Way of Central Florida. You may know of Family Fundamentals. It was around for a long time. It started in 1995. Carol Jenkins Barnett had a real passion for early intervention and early education. She saw the disparity that a lot of families have in those early years, 0 to 5, 0 to 6, before children get into school, and really saw a need to support those families and those children in that age before they got into school and before they were already behind. The proverbial saying, start behind, stay behind. So she really had a passion for serving those children and families. Started Family Fundamentals. It's been in downtown Lakeland in a few different spots, but we are so excited that we just moved to Bonnet Springs Park. So we have this wonderful opportunity to be in a place that can serve so many families and really provide such a high level of enrichment opportunities. Previously, they would come to our programs or our classes and maybe go into the museum and leave. At the current space that we are at, which also provides free transportation through Citrus Connection, so families that maybe have transportation issues can still come to any of our programs for free. All of our classes, all of our programs that I'll go through are free. And so families can come for one thing. This was her goal, was they would come for one service or one class, one program, and be able to be connected to a multitude of services. And I will go through all of those shortly, but to expand on the enrichment opportunities, we have a wonderful partnership with the museum. So families that come to any of our classes can attend the museum. They can then go out into the park and expand those enrichment opportunities, having a picnic with their child, learning about wildlife, going out into the outdoor classroom, getting fresh air and exercise instead of being stuck at home, potentially in a stressful environment. So we're so thankful and so excited to be at Bonnet Springs Park. And our whole goal is to really serve those kids that need it the most and provide that support for children and families in our community. This is a list of some of the classes that we currently provide. And we've expanded quite a bit since moving to Bonnet Springs Park. Previously, you can see on the list, we had weekly classes 0 to 5. Each of those classes, parents sign up for in advance, so they reserve their spot. There's a clear description on our website. I have a packet for you there, and you can see on the calendar here an example of those classes. If you scan the QR code at the bottom, it takes you directly to our website where you can sign up for the class. And they are all developmentally appropriate, taught by a master teacher who models behaviors that those parents then can take home. Oftentimes we get the question, is this a drop-off class? And we're quick to say, no. We want mom, dad, caregiver, grandparent to come because they often learn more than the child does in these classes. They see how to interact, how to encourage, ways of organizing the toys at home. Just the other day I was in the classroom and the teacher as you move around the classroom, we have different centers that specialize in different areas of learning. And the teacher said, it's time to clean up before you move to and the mom was quick to say, oh, he doesn't clean up. He just doesn't clean up. And she said, watch this. And she explained to him, you can't go play over here until you clean up everything here. And the child quickly started cleaning up. And the mom said, oh, I never thought to suggest that. And so it's just those little bits that parents get that they can take home and reinforce that learning at home. Every child that comes to our classes gets a free book to take home. We have a huge emphasis on literacy because that is the foundation of learning. And so we hope that as these children get these books, they get excited, the parents get excited, and then that builds a love for learning at home. As you can see, we have parenting classes that happen throughout the year. We just started a partnership with the Early Learning Coalition doing free developmental screenings, and that has been a huge success already. We've just done 2 different sessions, and they've both been full. So parents often have concerns and may not have the time or the resources to follow up on those issues. So for any child, you do not have to attend any of our classes. You can schedule an appointment to have a screening, again, for free. And then you get those results. And then you not only get any concerns, but you get resources to then plug in to help with those concerns. A new program that we're really excited about is our breastfeeding support group. We know it's hard, and there's a huge fail rate with that. but it's cost effective and it's a huge bonding opportunity. So we had a lot of people in the community asking for this. And so we're excited that we've just kicked that off in October. Financial stability class, the area that we're in, we are working very hard to support those families. Especially the community school that we have there is Jesse Keene Elementary. And so we've been working really hard with their parent coach there and are looking forward to supporting their families with these classes. Wednesdays, we have a bilingual class. We have a teacher that speaks Spanish and English. And we know, especially with some of our schools, a lot of the families don't speak any English. So they start kindergarten already behind their English-speaking students. So this class on Wednesdays gives these families and these children an opportunity to hear English and English in a learning environment. We're doing a free tax prep starting in January. If you earn less than $70,000, you can come in and have your taxes prepared for you for free. We started a sign language class. Again, there is a goal here for helping those that need it the most. There is a lack of support, and especially since COVID, that in-person support. We know there's a lot of support opportunities online, virtual opportunities, but you're missing that human connection that, hey, what about this? Or after the class, can we go talk in the park? So these parents are building networks and communities right here in Polk County that will change, the course of their child's life and hopefully their life as well. So this sign language class, we're hoping that children on possibly the spectrum or with a hearing disability or just a speech delay can come, learn some simple signs to decrease frustration, decrease stress, create bonding opportunities at home with that. And then we have healthcare navigators that come out every single week that provide that treacherous route through the healthcare system. They will sit one-on-one, bilingual, and help families understand the process. And then the next slide here, just wanted to show some pictures of our grand opening. You can see off to the side in that very first picture, we had a group of students from Jesse Keene come out, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, help us cut the grand opening sign, which was really exciting, and we really appreciated the students and staff for supporting us in that way. This is just some pictures of our weekly classes in our classroom, where children get to come out and explore, learn, and again, hopefully take home things that their parents can do at home to increase that bonding and learning opportunities. New for 2023, we are really excited that we just received our autism-friendly label through CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disabilities at USF. They came out, they did a tour, they talked to us about our programs, and they deemed us autism-friendly. So what that looks like is on their directory for the families that they serve in the greater Central Florida area. They can go on this website. A lot of these children on the ASD spectrum have a lot of anxiety about going to new places. So this directory basically walks them through with pictures and explanations on what to expect when they get there. So we are on their directory as of November. We are also starting an ASD support group. Another thing that we have heard is lacking. There's support in the Orlando area and in the Tampa area. Polk County doesn't have any real kind of support for these families, and as we all know, these numbers are going up, unfortunately, and so we feel strongly about providing some kind of support and resources for those families. We have in your packet that I have in front of you is our first flyer for January for these families to come out, and they will be able to, again, in person, build those connections with other families going through the similar trials. They'll also be able to hear from professionals that will come out and give them tools and resources that they can use at home and strategies. We are also working with Learning Resource Center to provide after-school tutoring for families and children that may not have the resources to go out on their own and do that. And then our parent coaching class with Achievement Academy, they came to us and said, hey, we're seeing a need here with new families before the baby's born. You have all of you on, you know, what to expect when you're expecting, and then the baby comes, and it's a whole nother, I wasn't going to say nightmare, but it's a whole nother reality once the baby's there, and you're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing. So we're working with Achievement Academy for those 2 classes. Before the baby's born, all of the things that you need to know and be prepared. And then after the baby's born, all of the resources and support that these new families are going to need. So those are some exciting things we have coming in 2023. And then, like I said, in front of you, you have our calendar that we put out on our website that shows all of our different classes throughout the week that parents can sign up for. Since we started, the link that you sign up for goes out on Friday. I joked the other day that we felt a little bit like Taylor Swift because we fill up in like 4 hours for all of our classes. It's very exciting and a blessing. But you can scan here, go to our website, and learn more about all of our different classes and programs. Next in your packet there is our tax prep. Families, like I mentioned before, can come in and have all of their taxes prepared for them. Our ASD flyer is in there for our autism support group in January. We also provide healthcare navigators, like I said, once a week that come out on a Friday and Tuesday. That is also on our website. Their information is in your packet. And then lastly, in March, we're doing a personal finance class. Again, targeting those families in our community, specifically our Jesse Keene elementary school families, to come out for this free class to learn about budgeting, saving, getting out of debt. And there's a lot of incentives for those families that complete that program. That is all I have. I would love to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
I have position 7. That would be Mr. Sharpless. Thank you. Names are not populating, just for the IT team in the background. Go ahead.
All right. Wow. A lot of amazing things, truly. And I just want to say, what a way to honor the philanthropic legacy of Carol Jenkins Barnett. So I just want to thank you for all you're doing and the service that you're, giving our community. So I was just blown away by all the things and everything that it reaches to. It's not just one program. It's so varied. And so thank you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It is, Carol passed away last year. And I didn't mention this initially, but Family Fundamentals was her creation. And when she passed away, the family and the board decided to honor her and her legacy by renaming it the Carol Jenkins Barnett United Way Children's Resource Center. And it is a huge honor and privilege to be able to continue her passion for that early education. So thank you.
There are no further questions or comments. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, for the remainder of this workshop, I will transition back to our standard practice that I will just basically look to the board for your hands in order to call that. So rather than calling seat numbers or guessing. Next up, I'd like to bring Candy Amato, Senior Director from the Office of Charter Schools. She's here today to provide a summary for the board of several charter school renewal applications and the recommendations from our team of reviewers as to the extensions and duration of a contract extension for each.
Sorry, this chair. So good morning. I went to ICE last night where it was 9 degrees, and I think it's that cold here. So, yes, it does. So I have to get used to this new setup, so I apologize. So good afternoon. Thank you all for having me here while I present. We have actually 6 charter schools up for renewal. 5 of them are being brought to you today. The last one will be brought at the end of January. So before I get started, I want to give a huge kudos and props to the schools that are up for renewal. They actually came to the meeting just to show that they are dedicated and involved and want to be an active participant in the conversation during today's presentation. So this is the actual the charter statute that we follow. Please note, I did highlight in red the new language that has been added. So I did a strike through on old language that you might be more familiar with and added the new language in red. Please note number 2, we used to only give a 15-year contract if they were classified as a high performing. However, now with new language, we must grant a charter school that has received a school grade of A or B in the most recently graded year. So just as a heads up, that is new language that we have never seen before. All right, the review process is kind of a daunting task. It does involve a ton of departments. I did not individually name each person simply because we divided and conquered this year, so we had multiple people from the departments participate because we had so many schools. So just a quick shout out to the curriculum department, ESE, facilities, ESOL, acceleration innovation, finance, assessment, accountability evaluation, guidance, certification, information services, and anyone else I have forgotten. Most of them are all sitting back there. Everybody played a very active role. We look at 3 main things when we're doing the review. Is the program academically successful? Is it a viable organization? And have they been faithful to the terms of their charter? So we're going to start with Bach North. And before I start on the Lake Wales schools, there are 4 Lake Wales schools that are up for renewal. And they operate similar to Polk County Public Schools as a system. So a lot of their information is going to sound repetitive. So please know financially, all 4 schools are sound. They're viable. They have very healthy unassigned fund balances. Their board members, their parents, their community members, and students all participated actively in their site visits. So I think that speaks to the volume that the Lake Wales community has around and the support around their schools. So Bach North is seeking a 10-year contract. Please know this is the first 5-year contract renewal that they have gone through. So they are just entering their 5th year. This is their actual 5th year of operation. We did a site visit on October 24th. This is their actual performance, and please note I made it, that's why I wanted to make sure you were aware. This is their 5th year. So obviously 2 of those years were COVID and or optional school grades, which is why we're only looking at really 2 grades here. But they have maintained their C, which in today's market of COVID and learning loss, we are pleased. This is their demographics. They are approved to serve 600 students. And they have maintained their enrollment, so they are actively seeking. They are well sought out in the community. So the first one, resilience. And that was something that the principal brought up numerous times, and it speaks volumes to their staff, their students, and their parents, and they're maintaining their enrollment number. So Bach North has undergone multiple transitions of building facilities to no control of their own, even as far as currently their 6th graders are not even housed on their current location due to storm damage from Hurricane Ian. But yet they are still plugging along. When we were on their campus, everyone was happy, everyone was eager, everyone was involved, and there was no negativity about the inconvenience of their staff being divided. Everybody was pitching in and doing their part. And I think that speaks to the volume of the leadership they have, as well as the community support. Something that was noted in their contract from years past, and it would be noted again this time around as well, was that the students who reside in Lake Wales would continue to receive a priority to attend Bach North. That was something that was very passionately brought up during their very first application, and that would be something that would be continued to be added into their current contract. And that was supported both by the school and the administrator, or the superintendent and their board. And I'm going through this rather quickly. You do have that detailed report, so I'm just trying to give you some highlights. So the charter review team found that Bach North met all the standards in the areas. Bach North is seeking to increase their enrollment to 750 students across the next 10 years. 100% of the charter review team members recommended that we approve them. 25% suggested a 5-year contract, and 75% suggested the 10-year contract. Are there any questions about Bach North?
Samantha, remind me, and for the members of the board, remind me what their current capacity cap is, 600?
600, yes, sir.
They're asking to increase to 750,
and a lot of that is also working with the facilities department. They did provide Lake Wales schools, all of the new growth and newly approved
That's
neighborhoods.
based off projected growth.
Correct.
Not anticipation of actual enrollment at this time.
Correct, but with their projected enrollment, we build it into their contract.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. I'm looking at the speaker list again. We had lunch before this. It's thrown me off. Ms. Wyatt and then Ms. Cunningham, I apologize.
Is there any way for us to better monitor that they are allowing Lake Wales students in before students from other areas? Because it still seems to be that there are students from Lake Wales that are unable to get in when students from other areas are being accepted.
So I think a lot of that determines when the students are enrolling and when they're moving into the area. So that might be a further conversation we could have with the school.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you. Yes, I'm in support of approving it for the 10 years at 100%. Like, I know they approved it 75-25, but I think they've proven time and time again that they continuously work hard and support our students, and particularly with not only Hurricane Ian, but Nicole. There's just all kinds of issues that we go through. But I think they are poised and ready for that next leap into a 10-year contract. And additionally, looking at what the City Commission is doing with approving the housing in the greater Lake Wales area, I would be in favor of looking at a projected total enrollment of 750 starting next year, as is being asked, because the kids are coming. Just like you said, the kids are waiting. They're also coming, and they're coming rapidly into our community. So I would like to see us approve this for a 10-year contract and up to the 750 enrollment, because our community truly needs that. Thank you.
All right, moving on to Janie Howard Wilson. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I know they were here during the last work session, giving you an extensive overview of their school improvement plan. They are only seeking a 5-year contract, and we did do a site visit on November 2nd. And a lot of this data you just saw literally last month. So just as a recap, where they fall, their current demographics. They currently have 447 students as their approved projected enrollment. So again, Janie Howard did spend a lot of time giving you some information about what their plans are to overcome where they're sitting academically with their school grade. So just making sure you can recall that the community is totally embracing all the changes, the structural changes that are happening. They are trying to become a PYP school through the International Baccalaureate program. Their discipline is on the decline and attendance is on the rise, which speaks volume to what's happening on that campus. So again, the charter review team indicated that on sections A and B of educational performance, they are approaching the standard, and a lot of that ties back to their school grade and how they performed academically. The remaining pieces, they are meeting the standard. They recommend to approve them at 100% and 100% giving them a 5-year contract. And much like Bach North, they are requesting an increase in enrollment due to support the community growth in that area.
To what number again?
So for next year, they would like to increase to 475. Year two.
So I'm going to ask the question. They've had 5 years of consistent steady decline in enrollment. Why the projection in 1 year, when they're not even close to their current capacity, would they request an increase?
Well,
While I agree, and growth is a realistic issue that we're dealing with, especially in that community, the pace of growth and the need in that community in particular is not sufficient to justify an increase in enrollment at this time. So remind me again, what's their current enrollment cap?
their current enrollment cap is 447. They're currently sitting at, when this data was pulled back in the fall, they were sitting at 419.
I apologize. I looked at the table in reverse. I apologize. Sorry. Okay.
So, sorry.
So they've seen 5 years of steady increase in enrollment, so they're well justified then at that point. Good. Thank you. Sorry.
Yes. And this data comes from our finance department. I can have them verify that one more time for you if you would like.
Ms. Cunningham.
Sorry.
There we go. Okay, so I would have to agree, I think, with the projected total enrollment for the upcoming year has been requested at 475. They were previously approved at the 447? 447, so, I mean, that's just a few more seats. But yeah, I think we should support that because, again, growth is coming. And I do believe they should also be approved for the 5-year contract as the charter review team recommended. I would agree with that. To go with the 5-year contract and increase the projected enrollment for the next school year to 475, and the others, same way, going down. Thank you.
No questions or comments, please move on.
All right, so now we'll move on to Lake Wells High School. They are seeking a 10-year contract, and we did conduct a site visit on October 26th. This is their student performance. As you can see, they've maintained their BC school grade. These are their demographics. I wanted to point out, if you'll notice the 3 years at the bottom, that was when we were using Genesis. And the Lake Wales IB school was separated from Lake Wales High School. But since we transitioned to Focus, those numbers, the student enrollment is now combined. So that's why that's isolated. So some of our findings we found, one that was shared, which was a kudos to them. Lake Wales High School was named as the U.S. News and World Report as one of the best high schools in 2022. That's something for them to be very proud of, as it represents Polk County very well. The charter system as a whole has implemented major improvements to the campus. Please remember, this is a conversion campus, so it's technically a Polk County School Board building and facility. They have resurfaced the track. They've installed new varsity football lockers. They've resodded the football practice field and the baseball field. So they're making continuous improvements to the property. Something I thought that was really important was, although they offer the IB program, not all students have to take the entire IB program itself. They do encourage students to take IB English or art or philosophy or geography so that they can earn a certificate, an IB certificate, as well as college credit. Although they may not complete the entire IB program, they're being afforded the opportunity to take some of those courses. They have a healthy unassigned fund balance as well, and something they were extremely proud of, and it was a fabulous presentation. They have a full-time MTSS coordinator who works collaboratively with the students and the staff and the administration. And the findings from the charter review team obviously meets the standards in all areas. They're looking to maintain their current approved PTM, which is 1620. They don't want to change that during their 10 years. 100% of the charter review team recommended to approve, 33.3 at a 5-year contract and 66.7 for a 10-year contract.
Ms. Cunningham.
Okay. Lake Wales High School has done a tremendous job in our community. They continue to provide rigorous and relevant learning opportunities for our students. I would be in favor of and will be supporting a 10-year contract for Lake Wales High School, and obviously to keep the projected total enrollment at the 1620, although I feel like in a few years from now, they're going to be coming back and asking for more seats because growth is upon all of us, and we just have to rise to that occasion because those children need to be educated. And I don't know if this is a good time or not, but go Highlanders. Our Highlanders go to state competition this coming Friday down in Fort Lauderdale at 1 o'clock. And I know the whole community is rallying against the kids, and we're very proud of them, and I know they're going to bring home the gold. So thank you, sir.
Sharpless?
As a Lake Wells High School alumnus, makes me very proud to be able to support the 10-year contract today. I also share with School Board Member Cunningham the concern that we're going to see a lot of growth in the area. We know it's coming, and I'm hoping that we'll see a projected increase in enrollment asked coming the next few years, because I know there's a lot of people moving into the community, so we're going to need that. And hail to the Highlanders, bring home the state.
All right, moving along to Polk Avenue. Again, they presented last month, so I will quickly run through their review. They are only seeking a 5-year contract, and we did conduct a site visit on November 1st. They are currently approved for 550 students, and they actually are slightly over their current projected enrollment when we pulled this data at 566. Here is their academic performance, of which the principal did present last month their school improvement plan for you. And some findings that we did find. The school does have an action plan in place to ensure that their curriculum that they're providing does align with the new state standards and state assessments. Their ESE program is very solid and strong. Their administration and staff, they're constantly using their data to make sure they're making the best decisions academically for their students to show growth. We were very impressed and very pleased with the amount of ELL support that they offer on their campus. I think they do a great job of the staff and the personnel that they have available to their students. And they also have a very healthy fund balance, Dr. Allen. And the charter review team recommended to approve at 100%, 8 out of 8 voted. They all voted to approve them for a 5-year contract. As you can see on the evaluation tool, sections A and B, very similar to Janie Howard. They were approaching the standards on the educational performance. The other remaining that they are meeting the standard. They are also seeking to increase their enrollment based on the growth in the area.
Ms. Cunningham?
Okay. I would like to voice my approval for 5-year contract along with the charter review team for Polk Avenue Elementary School. And I agree with the 545. However, if we're already over that now and we continue to see the growth, it's going from 445 to 555 to 575. I just have a question. Can that be amended to go up if you're already at, I don't know if you want to come forward and say something, because it needs to be done on the microphone.
Oh, do I have the pre-K? Okay. We can.
566 is, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
We tried to take out pre-K.
Okay.
Today I'm at 541.
You are. Okay. That clears it up then. Okay, so you're looking to go to 545. I got it. All right. Thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate it. So yes, I total support, yep, for the projected enrollment at 545 and then approval of the 5-year contract. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Hyde.
Yes, ma'am. Seeing no further comment, could I, just for the record, Candy, Ms. Amato, would you please remind me, was this the school with the new administrator?
So both, actually.
There were 2 schools with new administrators, correct?
Actually, 3 of the schools, Lake Wells High School, their AP is now the principal. Janie Howard is brand new principal, and Polk Avenue, this is her second
2
year.
elementary schools had new
Correct.
administrators.
Yes,
They recently adopted new curriculum as well as iReady, if I recall correctly.
correct. Yes, sir.
Curriculum-wise, I would support for both schools. They've definitely shown an interest in how to increase their outcomes, and their special education assessment scores on the students with access testing did very well. So good to see that.
All right, and Polk State College, this is the last one for today, I promise. So Polk State Gateway to College, Collegiate College, they are actually requesting a 10-year contract. And there are 2 major shifts from their previous approved application and their previous approved contract. So during year 6 of their approved 10-year contract, they would like to add 10th grade. And the other huge change, they are looking to update their MSID to reflect from a school improvement rating to earning a school grade, and to transition from an alternative education site to a K-12 general education site. These are their academic performance. Now, please note, because they do earn a school improvement rating, the only things that are factored on a school improvement rating are the actual learning gains. I did leave the rest of the data up there because that would then be factored in if they were to earn a school grade. So that data does carry some value at this point and having some of those conversations. Please note, when you look at the U.S. history EOC proficiency, during our site visit, it was discussed having the students who are taking U.S. history at the collegiate level participate in the U.S. history EOC, the high school course. That's currently not required. So those students who are sitting in the college level history course are not participating in that history EOC, which obviously impacts their school grade if they were to receive one. So they do have that flexibility to have those students take that EOC. These are their current demographics. They're actually approved for a PTM of 300 students. Some of the highlights, at 90% of their students who graduate from Gateway High School have completed at least one dual enrollment course, and that is actually the overall purpose of part of one of their caveats to their program is offering that collegiate program. They have a consistently high graduation rate, and their dropout rate hasn't been higher than 1%. So that speaks volumes to what they're doing. They provide a significant amount of wraparound services. During the site visit, they had a student get up and speak and share his experience attending Gateway. He left Gateway, went back to another charter school, found out that he really missed what was happening to him at Gateway. And so he returned after he begged, borrowed, and pleaded for a seat. And he had to wait until there was a lottery process to get his seat back. So he was very passionate, and he shared his story. Another student shared that his mom attended part of the program. So they do reach a unique set of population of students. They also have a very healthy unassigned fund balance, and as you know, they are part of the Polk State Lakeland campus. So as I was telling you, we did have some concerns that were noted, but please note that I have here from the principal an action plan. Most have already been resolved, and if not, there's already a plan in place to fix it and correct it in the future as we move forward to the spring semester. So those items have all been addressed, and we have worked collaboratively with the school.
Ms. Wyatt?
That was going to be my question. So how does this differentiate from Polk State Collegiate then if they're making all of these changes?
So they will still, get to the enrollment piece, they will still provide a priority to the students who honor what their initial application was, where they're that gateway to college program. So they will still provide a priority to students who have been out a minimum of 3 months, if they're a custodial parent, if they can demonstrate that they're the primary caretaker for families, if they're over age, under credit, they're off cohort, if they're homeless, or any other type of accepting documentation. Maybe they were in a DJJ site, PACE site, detention center, things to that nature. They also, the traditional collegiate programs, you normally have to pass all 3 sections of the PERT to be considered a candidate for their program. Gateway does not have that as a stipulation.
So it basically, kids that want to do the collegiate but don't meet the requirements could go this route.
It is an option for them. It is an option for them.
Okay. With the collegiate programs, are they at capacity for those programs for both Lakeland and Winter Haven? Yes. So I guess my biggest concern is that if they do reach capacity for this program, which they currently are not reaching capacity for, that it will actually limit students from being able to get in that need a program like this?
So, in talking with the principal, that is a question we did bring up. And on the slide, if they have more applications than they have seats available, they will conduct a lottery. Currently, they don't need to conduct a lottery because they don't receive as many applications as they have seats. So once they get to that point, they will offer an enrollment, and the students who their initial target population will receive a priority in that lottery.
So obviously this program takes longer it's not necessarily just for this semester that you need classes, it's for several semesters. Mm-hmm. So if this semester they have to run a lottery, they end up with students that don't meet the original criteria. Mm-hmm. Next semester comes around, they don't have enough seats for the students who would originally meet that criteria, could we end up in a situation where students who originally met the criteria were their core target audience, do you see where I'm going with this? Were their core target audience can't get in because they're students that did not meet that core audience that are already in holding seats?
Gotcha.
Well, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the question would be, going back, and this is also a question, if they're adding a grade level, did they request an expansion in seats?
They did not.
So I think that's a question that I think we could follow up with. Additionally, as they get ready, if they start to approach that capacity limit at each grade level, we would want to talk to them about the application process and the lottery process. Because there are times where schools will hit a certain capacity, 80% capacity, and then trigger a lottery for remaining seats. We would prefer they follow the same pathway we do, which is open the lottery process up initially, and then if you have to do multiple drawings till you get to 100% capacity, that's fair and consistent. But that would help address some of your concern. But your question is, yes, if they don't immediately go, or they don't prioritize enrollment for students who the program was originally developed for and intended to target, and they're letting other students in, then yes, they lose seats for those students.
And collegiate still is just 11th and 12th, or have they added 10th?
No, the two traditional collegiate high schools are still grades 11 and 12. Gateway would serve grades 11 and 12 as they do now for the first 5 years. They don't want to entertain grade 10 until year 6,
Okay.
which would
Do
be,
they have capacity to add 10th grade
they do,
in their current facility?
they do. They're part of the Polk State campus, so their capacity is a little unique because they have access to additional classrooms.
So I know, and I promise this is my last question. I know they asked for a 10-year contract. Could we do a 5-year, if they're only wanting 11th and 12th, could we do a 5-year contract not expanding to 10th grade? And then it can come back to talk about expanding to 10th grade with expanding the enrollment cap potentially?
The board has that discretion, yes.
Okay. Because that would be my gut.
Ms. Cunningham and Dr. Allen?
Yeah, looking at the charter review team's recommendation, I would have to agree with Ms. Wyatt. I would like to see us look at a 5-year contract instead of the 10 in this case, because there was quite a few that denied, and one person, and actually even said no contract at all. And that concerns me a bit, knowing how the charter review teams work. So I want them to continue to work hard and educate children, but we have to do it in a methodological way. So I personally would support a 5-year contract at this juncture. Thank you.
Dr. Allen?
Yeah, I think following up with Ms. Cunningham, I would probably be in agreement with the 5 year as well. And I was just wondering, from your perspective, Superintendent, when do you see a red flag? When we look at that committee vote, it was definitely, big range.
This is
of outcomes
this was the only committee response that
there.
triggered a concern, a question. But if they're not looking, and if I heard you correctly, Ms. Amato, they would not be looking to add 10th grade until year 6 of a potential 10-year contract.
Correct, the 28,
So
29.
to Ms. Wyatt and Ms. Cunningham's point, giving them a current 5-year contract with the understanding they would come back before their actual interest in adding 10th grade would give them justification to come back for an extension at that time as well. So I think that positions them well moving forward. Ms. Wyatt?
I would also, that's exactly where I was going. And if they would want to come back, I realize it's a 5-year contract, but if they want to come back to the table, if they want to add it in year 6, I realize they may need time to plan for that. So if they want to come back year 3 or 4 of this contract and redo it at that point, to build in adding 10th, but if they're going to add 10th, they need to add more seats. Or there needs to be some stipulation of, my fear is that they get all 10th graders in that are interested in going to collegiate their 10th grade year, because you can't do that in any other capacity. So you end up with 75% of the students coming in 10th grade that don't necessarily meet the original target audience, and then they're there 11th and 12th grade, and the students who truly need this program can't get in 11th or 12th grade. So those are my concerns that I just want to make sure they're on the record so that when they're bringing back new ideas,
And just
they know them.
throw out to you. So please remember in the very first component, in regards to school grades, if they transition their MSID number to be a traditional K-12 general education and they receive a school grade, if they become deemed high performing by the state of Florida, they are automatically given a 15-year contract and are allowed to expand to grade levels based on what the building can occupy. So
And if, I'd like to request an opportunity after the holiday break to meet with them, because this creates a lot of opportunities for our students, for all students, and allow us to expand and extend a new renewed partnership with them. Because I see great opportunities for us, not only for the initial targeted students, but for other students for early college access. But I'd also like to talk to them because I'm excited, because if you start including 10th graders, you start to raise the opportunity for early graduation. Where students would not be required to be present for their entirety of their senior year, depending on how many credits we're talking about. So I'd like to speak to the administration and their superintendent after this, and I'll work with Ms. Winchester to get that in your office to get that scheduled, because I think there's a great opportunity here, and it's exciting for our students. So thank you.
all right, next steps.
Oh, hang on.
Sorry, just one final comment. I don't want anyone to get the impression that I'm not supportive of what Polk State does with their collegiate. My concern is just that we're going to be missing the target audience, which if they were closing that school and establishing a new school would be fine. But this comes across as opposed to closing this school and establishing something new, we're trying to change a lot of things in contract negotiations, which just, I think, misses the intent of what the contract negotiations are really for, and if this should be handled differently. So those are my concerns.
And so next steps will be these 5 schools will come back to you during the January board meeting for a formal vote. Based on the recommendation of the board, we will then move into contract negotiations with the school, general counsel, and the charter office. Any additional questions?
No, ma'am. Thank you very much. Great job. Next up, traditionally, this would be presented by Ms. Dodge, as the board was made aware that Teresa Griffin will be here this afternoon, to do the presentation on policy updates. Ms. Griffin.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For those of you who may not know me, I'm Teresa Griffin. As Mr. Hyde said, I work with Wendy Dodge in the Legislative Affairs Department, and she apologizes that she could not be here today, but she is in Tallahassee in special sessions. So thank you guys for letting me present these policies today. These policies have been recommended by Neola and approved by the appropriate department staff. So before you today, there are 6 different policies. The first one is policy 2605, which is research and evaluation. This policy is updated to state that we allow parents to opt out of any data collection not required by law. The next 3 are finance policies. Policy 6110, grant funds. Policy 6114, cost principles, spending federal funds. And policy 6325, procurement of federal grants and funds. All three of these policies were updated to include changes required by the Education Department General Administrative Regulations, also known as EDGAR. And then the last 2 policies are policy 6152, student fees, fines, and charges, which was updated to allow for online payments of these types of charges when available. And then finally, policy 6152.01, which is waiver of school fees. And this policy was updated to address and remove any fees that could be considered barriers to education for students experiencing homelessness. Does anybody have questions about any of these policies? All right, thank you guys.
Seeing none. Fantastic job, Ms. Griffin.
Thank you for being easy on me. You guys have a great day.
She was probably nervous the whole time.
I was nervous for questions, but thank you.
I have no doubt you'd have been prepared. Mr. Geary, it will be up next. This was an item, several of these items, as you recall, because of the amount of time we spent in the last work session, really having some in-depth conversations about variety of topics, had to be pushed. This is our school messenger program. And so, Mr. Geary, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. I appreciate everybody giving us some time today. Just wanted to kind of give everybody an overview of an exciting project that we're working on. It's kind of hard to imagine, but I believe it was during the retreat in January where we actually talked about school websites. There were some questions about where were we at with it. As you know, my staff was the one have been doing a redesign on all of our school websites and the district's website. We've been doing this since about 2018. And where we were at this time is about 60% of our school sites have undergone a very basic redesign. We still have about 24% that are in progress and about 16% that are awaiting a redesign. This exciting project that we're working on is really going to help us accelerate this and be able to complete it much faster and do a much more extensive redesign as opposed to the basic design that we've done. Our basic redesign it improved the layout, it made some more consistent school branding, it improved the ADA compliance, and it improved the responsiveness on our mobile devices, basically made it display a little bit better. We were responsible for providing the website training to the school staff. Just to give you an idea of what our staff looks like, I have 2 analysts who work in web design, and I have 1 supervisor. So we have 3 folks who are responsible for 119 school sites. So if we were to go with a company for a content management system, which is Entrado, this is a company that actually we currently use for our school messenger system. That's our automated messaging system that for telephone calls and for emails. The same company also offers a content management system. The reason why this would be helpful for us is that it would help us maintain cybersecurity standards. It would help us make sure that we are ADA compliant. It will also provide a very uniform, user-friendly layout for all of our school sites and district site. It'll help us reinsist the branding for our schools. The vendor will also provide additional support and training for all of our schools. It won't be just my staff that's doing it for 119 sites. They'll actually be able to provide that training for all of our school sites. There's also greater stability in case of emergencies to have this being hosted by a vendor. And it integrates with our current school messenger system. What that means is that if we were to have, like, say, an emergency situation that would take place at our school site, we could also, at the very same time we're sending out a message for the school, we could also post a bulletin on their website. And again, it helps us with consistency on that. In addition, and I'll talk about it in a second, the other part of this project is a custom mobile app for our schools. So at the same time that you're posting a bulletin on the website, you could also do a push notification through that app system. Again, it helps us, and you're doing a telephone call and an email. It helps us to be able to communicate very quickly on multiple different platforms, especially during an emergency situation. Entrado offers a comprehensive website content management system. This will be an extensive redesign, not the basic redesign that we're currently doing. This will be a much more extensive redesign. The team of designers for Entrado will also be able to more quickly be able to migrate this information over and make us have our new websites up and ready for launch. The goal is to have these up by May, June, and then after that, focus on making our custom mobile app launched. That shouldn't take as long, but we're hoping by May, June to have all of our websites completed, launched, and ready to go. And again, as I said before, this integrates seamlessly with School Messenger, our telephone and email system. The custom mobile app is something that we've actually had a lot of our schools interested in. Some of them have wanted this for a while, and this will give us a uniform way, an offering for all of our schools. Many schools have requested this. Parents have also requested a more streamlined way to have an app, so that way they only have to download one app, no matter what school their children are in. This custom mobile app will also have a teacher messaging component on it, so this will help with communication between teachers and home. And again, as I said before, emergency notifications are available through this mobile app too, so this will help us to be able to reach folks, our parents and our families, with emergency information as well. And the custom mobile app that Entrado offers, it's just to kind of give you an idea, it's one app for the district. So they only have to download one app no matter where their schools, if their student matriculates to a different school, they can just simply go in and select that school site. If they have multiple students in different schools, they just have to select what schools their students attend. And what happens is as the schools update their websites, it feeds directly off the app. So if they post information on their website, it immediately goes to the custom app, and then they'll be able to get notifications and information updated on it. So as long as the schools are updating their websites, the app that they have for their students will also be updated. And the app is also ADA compliant and accessible. The total cost for the content management system and the mobile app is $249,906, but that's over 3 years. We were given a discount for the 3-year contract. In addition to that, we were given unlimited remote training and support. Basically, every week they have remote training with an actual trainer. It's not a webinar. This is an actual live training virtually that our schools can use. They'll also have a live training that they'll schedule with us for any schools that want to have a live training. We'll have one live training session that they can do as well. And after the 3 years, Entrada will also do another redesign as well. They'll basically go through and look and see if we want to redesign our websites after that 3-year period, and we'll do that as part of this 3-year agreement. So we'll have a refresh even after 3 years. And that's the general overview of the system. I actually have Rachel Hall with Entrado here. She's the region director for this, for our area. If you have any questions or if you'd like to have a little bit more information about how the system works, we have extra slides here, but I don't necessarily want to do that if you feel comfortable with the general overview of the project. Again, the goal is to have kickoff meeting in January, and by May, June, we should have our school websites launched.
Any questions? Ms. White?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much. This is especially looking at the direction everything's going. Having it on an app is huge. The usability for our parents and families is something that is much needed. So thank you for bird dogging this and putting it together and bringing it to us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mr. Sharpless?
We live in a Google and Yelp society, and our digital front porch needs to be top-notch. And so I just want to say I'm in support of improving our digital footprint. And really, I would suggest also we consider developing a website just for, and it's just, workshops, so just kind of throwing out an idea, for recruitment into Polk County Public Schools. Because we're trying to recruit FTE counts and students, and if we can do something that is separate from our district website, because quite honestly, sometimes it's cumbersome to navigate that. If we can get something that is specifically for families to recruit them to our system.
Yes, ma'am.
Just my thoughts.
And hopefully during this extensive redesign, we'll make our actual site a little bit more, make it more user-friendly, but that's certainly something we can look at.
Thank you.
Sir.
Dr. Allen?
I did notice in the materials that it was cross-platform, Android and iPhone environments as well. Any thresholds on data, like a data cap or anything like that in the contract? I see. No. Okay, great. All right, thank you.
No further questions or comments, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to bring, well, it was going to be Mr. Warren, but he's out today. We will bring Mr. Jason Pitts to the front, Chief of Staff, to discuss a few human resources items. He actually has the next 3 items in collaboration with other staff. The first item before us is personnel staffing updates. Mr. Pitts.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members.
They're turning off on and off mics.
We good? Okay, we're good. All right. At the end of January, staff will be bringing recommendations for next year's reorg and staffing plan. But I am requesting a couple of position changes here to be approved at the January's board meeting. And these are for some human resource positions. In January, we start budgeting and staffing for next year. And these positions are crucial to that process. The first position that's in front of you is an upgrade from the personnel director to a senior director. If you remember back in May, we raised several district staff from directors to senior directors. And this position is very similar to those positions that we raised. I did not bring this position forward at that time because we had that position double-staffed for the last 6 months. Many of you know Ms. Paula Dole has retired from the district, and she had a lot of institutional knowledge, and so we had that position double-staffed. So I would like to raise that position up to a senior director to be in line with other district positions that assume about the same amount of responsibility. That total change in salary is about $18,000. I would also like to add a senior manager for personnel. One of the things that we are seeing is the need to upgrade our processes and to provide a lot more analysis. And so this senior manager of personnel would be able to assist the senior director in more analysis of HR functions. And I don't know the last time that you might have looked or read through the CBA. Okay. If you need something to do this weekend, read through the CBA. And if you look at the appendix, you'll see all of the supplements that our teachers and folks under our CBA receive. And a lot of those have their own processes. And the next two positions are senior technicians of personnel. And these are the positions that really help make sure we're paying folks correctly and not underpaying or overpaying. Payroll gets many times accused of, paying somebody wrong, but many times it's these processes before. So the total would be $159,000. Now, when the superintendent brought the staffing plan to you back in May, there were several contracts that we had suspended, which was going to save us about $500,000. Even though this is $159,000, it's still within that savings that the superintendent had brought forward earlier in the year. The next slide is just an org representation, an org chart representation of these changes. And behind that was just some update to the senior director job description, and there was also a job description for that senior manager of personnel. Any questions for me on those items? And we are just speeding through this work session today. They did.
Mine's okay.
If there are no questions, I will move on to the next item. The next item was a extensive list of job descriptions. Everyone's still looking at their monitors to see.
Is anybody's presentation working on their monitor?
Just Wes.
So it's the presentation, not you have it pulled up?
Okay, I think that was probably my fault, something that I did. No, are you sure?
No, I can see it.
You can see it, okay. The next item is a update of job descriptions. We had started about a year ago revising all of our job descriptions, and the next item is that extensive list of job descriptions and just language changes that we made to those job descriptions. And I'm not sure if any of you might have any questions about those.
So this is part of the undertaking, if you recall, we had asked every senior admin to sit down within their departments and review every single job description under their purview. Part of that review was to include a conversation with employees to ensure that any changes would reflect actual practices that they perform within that role, and that things that were no longer being done in that role have been stricken from the job description. As a result of that review that started last January, so if you think about it, it is just about a year since we began this process for it to come to this level or this point of conclusion. We have elevated, as a result, many jobs, because what we found was their job descriptions had changed significantly. And in many instances, somebody went from maybe potentially supervising no employees to now supervising 5 or 6. And so we have subsequently each quarter, each month, brought requests for job elevations over the last few months, as you know, to make those adjustments happen in real time. And we've tried to do it as expediently as we possibly could. There is intentionality in bringing it to you every month, and we had this conversation. Other board members had expressed an interest in just bringing it all at once. The problem with trying to bring it all at once is I don't feel we get to spend the amount of time talking about each change and the justification for each change in each department, because you're looking at, instead of looking at maybe 5 to 6 changes in a department, you're looking at 300 changes across an organization, and as a result, it gets very difficult to really explain each and every one for the justification. So what you see here, Mr. Pitts has provided the final language updates, all the strike-throughs and underline, so that these job descriptions now accurately reflect the work being performed. The next step would be any job descriptions that were untouched will be reviewed to make a determination as to their retention. We have a lot of job descriptions that haven't been filled in a number of years, and so the question now is, do we even need those job descriptions? That doesn't mean they'll be completely eliminated. They'll just be separated from the current group, so that if we ever have to use one as a template in the future to reinvent a position, we would have the language at our fingertips. So we're not going to just simply dispose of everything, but if the job hasn't been needed or filled, let's say in 10 plus years, do we really need it in the catalog? Because I think it leads to some cognitive confusion from time to time. So, Mr. Pitts.
That was a very good explanation. It's several hundred pages of job descriptions. I just don't know if anyone has any questions about what we put in there. Otherwise, it'll come back in January for your approval.
So you'll have plenty of time to review this between now and next meeting.
And that's it for me. Yeah.
Do you not have the last one?
I believe the last one is the chair's, yes.
Dr. Allen.
How many years has it been since we've actually done this? And do we have a plan, like say 7 years from now, this will be another evaluative process that we do, or?
We haven't discussed the next time.
That we'll do this. The job we had not done, I don't know how long it's been since we had done an extensive job description update. Typically, I would see the job descriptions get updated as somebody leaves a position. And then the manager would say, okay, what's this position really doing? But that only touched just a few, a handful of job descriptions. But it had been many years since we had done an extensive job description overhaul.
Yeah, right.
It's customary every 7 to 10 years. But as Mr. Pitts pointed out, some job descriptions are reviewed more frequently just because of the role that they play. Senior admin vacancies are typically reviewed on a more frequent basis. Additionally, part of the problem and why job descriptions had not been reviewed, we have longevity in many positions, which meant that when a position doesn't become open again and we go to advertise, when you're not advertising, you're not looking to see how has the job changed. So the opportunity had not always presented itself. But to your answer, to your question, have we revisited job descriptions? Yes, periodically. Have we ever done it at scale? Never, to my knowledge. And I've asked several people who have a long history here in Polk. And so it was a good starting point. And I think what it also demonstrated, if you recall, when we first started the process, and I made the recommendation and pushed the team to begin this, it was about equity as well. Why are we reviewing some job descriptions but not all? And when I first arrived, there was a lot of concern that people were like, well, this job description does not accurately reflect what I do on a daily basis, and therefore I don't feel I get paid adequately. And many of them were right. So I think what it did was it provided justification and further support for our staff that we are focusing on those things to make sure that they're adequately placed and they're adequately compensated for the work that they do. Thank you, Mr. Pitts.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, next item is yours.
It is, and I am going to ask that we take a 10-minute recess just because I have a few things and I want to make sure that we don't run too long without a break. So we'll take a 10-minute recess for everyone to use the restroom and get up and stretch, and then we'll come back. So 2:05. Also, can the tech team please come here? Good afternoon, and we are back in session. So the next item on our agenda, and I went to the wrong window, is our board direct report employee contracts. So you all tasked me with going and meeting individually with each of our employees. So Superintendent Hyde, his contract was not up, but we had discussed looking at an extension for him. Attorney Bridges, and then our internal auditor, Carol Matthews. So let's do Mr. Bridges and Ms. Matthews first. So the only changes for those were that both of them would be an additional 3-year contract. So just for our new board members, so you're aware, the way that their contracts work is that they, historically, they've been 3-year contracts. However, we have to notify them by 6 months out, essentially. So we have to notify them by December 15th if we're planning to non-renew in June. So their contracts will go through June 30th. Both of their contracts would have been up June 30th of 2023. However, the proposal on the table is to renew those through 2026. So this contract would actually wouldn't start until July 1st, 2023, and go through June 30th, 2026. The only other thing that I changed in here is that it actually said in their evaluation section that they would be evaluated on or before June 30th of each calendar year, which of course the fiscal year ends on June 30th. So getting them an evaluation for our fiscal year, the day that the fiscal year ends, I feel like is probably a tall order when you have 7 people evaluating someone. But I do want to make sure that it's done in a timely manner. So I've changed that in the wording to July 30th. So that will give us a month to get it done. We can have it ready to go out earlier than the June 30th, but that way they're receiving it in a timely manner, but it also can be conducted after the fiscal year ends. Any questions on either of those? Okay, the only other thing that I would like to add, and with Ms. Matthews' permission, she is currently in drop. So 2026 is when her drop date would be. So looking at her department, she does currently have a position opened for what would be her number 2. But as they're trying to recruit someone that not only would serve as her number 2 now, but that hopefully we would be able to do some succession planning and having that person become the internal auditor when she goes into retirement. We would like to look at moving that position to be an assistant director. That really aligns more with industry standards. It is a slight cost to the district because it's a slightly higher pay grade for the district. But I've asked Jason Pitts to hold that information and have that for us at the January work session so that we can look into doing that so that we can hopefully have someone really great in there to learn from Carol and then have a seamless transition when she retires in a few years. So Jason, if you can have that ready for us in January, we would appreciate it. And then last will be the superintendent's contract. And I will tell you, he is a really tough negotiator because I tried to get him to take a raise. He said no to that. He likes what he has. So this would be a 5-year extension because of the timeline and Florida law, it actually ends up being about 4.5 years because if we were to offer him a 5-year, not start it would be longer than, so it would go through 2027, June 30th of 2027. The only other thing that I changed in here is I took out, because this was his first contract, he also had a moving allowance built in. So I took out the moving allowance because I understand he likes where he lives and does not plan on moving again. Unless maybe to Winter Haven one day, we'll see. But so that is the only changes to his contract from previous. And I apologize, I did also, for his evaluation section, put the same July 30th so that it'll give us a month to do that. Any questions? Yes. They asked if we please don't tap the mics, and if you start talking, they will pick you up.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Apologize. So I was just curious, in number 6, it says adjustment to compensation. It says the superintendent may receive additional performance-based increases. between the board and the superintendent as part of the evaluation process. So I was just wondering if we had any examples of what that is, and because we've never, at least Rick and I have never went through an evaluation yet. So what, do we develop that evaluation and those performance-based increases? I'm just curious if you can explain that a little bit.
So the evaluation is something that actually Fred brought to us that he had used in his former district. We as a board, I think, liked the tool that he used a little bit better than the tool that we were currently using. So we moved to that this year. We can certainly get you a copy of those because we just completed them. We actually just gave them to him at our last meeting. And his is, I believe his was attached to.
Yes. I was just wondering what the performance-based increases are. I'm kind of, I don't know.
So in past, we have done, we have offered the superintendent a raise equal to that of what we've done for our administrators. So if our administrators get a 2% raise, that's what we've offered the superintendent. As I indicated, he is a tough negotiator and just kept saying no. So if anyone can convince him otherwise, have at it. It's been many phone calls and meetings, but he's held firm at no. So but typically that's what we've done in the past.
That's not really performance-based if it's based on, that's why I'm confused a little bit.
Superintendent Hyde.
I can explain potentially a little bit. So traditionally, there are performance-based metrics that would incentivize a senior administrator, including a superintendent, based off performance outcomes, academic outcomes, or whatever goals or metrics the board and superintendent agree to. We have made, and again, that was not my interest, but we have taken steps towards the opportunity for that in the future if the board were to want to pursue that. By having academic metrics completely separate from the strategic plan goals. So if you think about, and the way the evaluation is established, it's both qualitative and quantitative. And so there's a measure of how do I perform as the district leader? You know, my visibility, my responsiveness, my receptiveness, you know, how do we innovate? How do we problem solve? How do we address stakeholders? How do we handle finances? How do we handle basic operations? And that's more qualitative. On the quantitative side, which are the academic measures, is, you know, what are we doing with graduation rate, with our reading proficiency? So in districts, you typically will see a baseline established, and then if a goal is exceeded, met or exceeded, there's typically a performance pay aspect to it. That is not what I intended to bring to the table. I like the qualitative and quantitative because I think they're two very different measures, and I think more often people in my role are evaluated based off the soft skills and not necessarily the outcomes. And I know that based off our performance to date, we need to focus heavily on student outcomes, and that's why we have an entire goal area dedicated to that. We would not be in a position to even discuss this for another 2 years. The state of Florida is transitioning to a new assessment this year, and then at the end of next year is when I think we'll start to see the grading and scoring solidify. So I would urge caution to say that, again, we're at least 2 years, maybe 3 years out from even having a discussion about that. Compensation is just not something that I'm too concerned with at this point. I'd rather see the money deferred and go elsewhere.
But leaving it in there gives us the opportunity to.
The board has the opportunity to bring that up, yes, sir.
Gotcha.
I like how you said to bring that up. Any other questions on any of our direct report contracts? Ms. Cunningham.
Okay, so I just want to commend everybody. I think that we are one extremely blessed school board members. We're a great team, and we've got some great direct reports in our general counsel, Mr. Bridges, and our auditor, Ms. Matthews, and I'm really glad that we're talking about succession planning as we move forward, because that's so very important. So thank you for working towards that goal. And as I've said before and will continue to say, I'm so pleased with our superintendent and the work that he's doing, and the leadership skills that you show and provide as I go around the district to numerous events, because it's the holidays and they're all out there. I hear nothing but praises that you're real, you're approachable, you care, you listen, and we thank you. I know money isn't everything, but sometimes some words of encouragement and praise goes a long way. So thank you so much. We're blessed to have you and your team working, and I know some days it's kind of like, oh my goodness, why am I doing what I'm doing? But you stay the course and you work hard, and we appreciate all that you do, and I just think that needs to be said.
Mr. Sharpless?
So I also want to echo that we are blessed. I'm happy that we're looking at more of a long-term contract, a 5-year extension, because when you look around the state, you're seeing a lot of superintendents, not a lot, but you're seeing some superintendents being let go. And that's going to create a demand for great superintendents. So I want to lock up the current one we have here in Polk County for at least 5 years, because I don't really want to do another superintendent search, and especially when we got a great one right here. So that's just my only comment.
Dr. Allen?
So speaking of locking up, I mean, maybe we should reach out to Sheriff Grady and see if we're really, truly locked up. But yeah, I really thoroughly enjoyed working through the evaluation process, and it's a great opportunity for us as board members to reflect back and see the progression of the work that's been done around the district. So definitely want to affirm you, Superintendent Hyde, and you know, the individuals around you. You've created a great team, the cabinet. So all those things are reflective of great leadership, so appreciate that. And I think there's at least 5 superintendent openings around the state. Is that accurate? I believe so. And so I'm with Mr. Sharpless here. We definitely want to keep you and you know, recognize the great work that you're doing. I was reflecting back to the Southwest Elementary groundbreaking as we were talking here, and you made a statement or something that you wanted to, and this was in the middle of summer, it was hot, we're sweating, we're in coats, and it was just miserably hot. And you had this goal that you wanted to build this dome around Polk County and provide air conditioning to the whole county. Yeah. So if you can actually do that, I think that would be a great performative measure that we could offer you some type of a raise around that. But in general, and I was going to save this for my public comment later, just during the Lakeland Chamber, hearing that gentleman say this is probably the most excited he's been in a long time about Polk County Public Schools after you had given the year in review process. So I really appreciate that. So thanks for the great work you're doing. That's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Mr. Nolte?
Well, since I've been talking so much today, and I know people are tired of hearing my voice, as our president would say, what do you say in 3 easy words? 3 easy words? I concur with everything that's been said.
Thank you, Mr. Nolte. And I just want to echo what some of my colleagues have said. With there being so many superintendent vacancies open, I appreciate that you're telling them no when they call you, because I know that they are calling you. So we're excited to have you here and hopefully continue to have you here for many, many years to come. So thank you. All right. Next, we will go through our agenda for this evening. So new board members, typically the easiest thing to do is if you go to the top where it says meetings and then click on the board meeting on the left where it says board meeting 5 p.m. So we don't typically go over the donation report, but if you have any questions, we are happy to answer them. All right. Everyone good to go over board agenda? And I apologize, I should have made that comment at the beginning. So section B, information items, we typically don't go over them unless somebody has a question. So they're really just there for your information, but please review them and let us know if there's any questions or comments you have about them. Normally it's our financial reports, Head Start grant report, things like that. Are we ready to go over this evening's? So typically how I go through is I'll just call out like sections A through C, and if you have any questions on those sections, then you'll raise your hand. Usually it's press a button, but we don't have a button tonight, so raise your hand. So opening, we'll do our pledge call to order, exceptions of school board agenda, special recognitions. So are there any questions for items A through C? And then D is approval of minutes. Any questions? And then we'll go sections, E is the consent agenda, but it breaks down underneath. So we'll go sections F through I. Any questions on F through I? All right, and then section J, consent agenda facilities. Mr. Sharpless? And if you'll just say the whatever, so if it's J2, whatever the number is.
The entire section.
The entire section, okay.
And my only question is, I remember my predecessor asking for certain items if they were over a dollar amount to be pulled. And I was wondering if that was a practice we did or what. I was just curious on what.
It was not that the item be pulled. It was that an item, that anything over $1 million come with an explanation.
Okay.
That we do a public acknowledgement of those, but that the item was not being pulled.
And that was not usually for facilities because pretty much anything we do to a facility is going to be over $1 million. So,
That was my only question.
thank you.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, is that what you would like to see continue?
Yes, not necessarily for facilities, but.
Especially if it is a new contract, I think too, the other caveat was if it was a new contract as opposed to renewal, if it's something done, and Mr. Sharpless can speak for himself, but if it's something that we've done for several years, personally, I don't need an explanation for it if it's a renewal.
Yep.
So, but if other board members feel differently, please just get with Superintendent Hyde on that. Any other questions on consent agenda facilities? Okay, next we'll go sections K through O. Human resources, support services, and teaching and learning. Ms. Cunningham.
On item O2, I have received several community emails requesting that be tabled until the January meeting to give the community time to review the books that are in the that are being presented to be part of our library system. So I wasn't sure if that would be something that staff, could it wait another month? If it could, it would be greatly appreciated.
So Superintendent Hyde and I spoke about this one this morning. It is actually in statute that once it's adopted, they have 30 days to petition them. So there is an extended time period for the petitions to happen. Right. If we wait until January, it would have to wait to, the petition period would be moved to go into late February. Right. As far as ordering books and getting them in, it would put us delayed, obviously. So that was the conversation on it. But Superintendent Hyde, do you want to?
Correct, and all the books have been vetted by staff. And so we'd be happy to provide a list of the new books as compared to books that are already existing in our libraries across the district based off the appropriateness of the age level. But we do have those lists highlighted, so we could provide that to the community members, so that would considerably shorten the list of books that they would want to review. But again, in accordance with statute,
Right.
they have 30 days.
Right.
And then we have 30 days beyond that initial 30-day period to conclude the review if a book is challenged. So delaying the adoption at this time, again, only delays and creates a longer timeline for our team as well. So the recommendation from my office would be to continue forward with the adoption and allow them to petition any books that they feel are inappropriate or in violation of current statute within that 30-day timeframe.
But doesn't it, I mean, I hate, how do I say this? To have to petition it is a pain. It's not showing respect. So I'm saying if we could just wait 30 days till the January board meeting, which is whatever, soon, can't look at my phone,
Not
but
till the end of the month.
it is end of the month? So it'd be, what, 5 weeks from now, and it's the middle of the holidays, so 6 weeks. I don't think that's unreasonable. I really don't, rather than having to have people petition and go through I call it the nonsense, you know my word. I'm trying to prevent nonsense, and I feel like if we've been asked by some community members to hold off to give them a chance, you can still provide that list that whoever has would be great, put it on wherever you put it. But I just think it would, I don't know, show respect. I mean, unless, oh my goodness, if we don't order I don't know, February 25th, whatever, then we're done, because that still gives the 30 days, but if we take care of it now, there won't be a 30 days. By the end of January, at that board meeting, we should be done. That's all I'm saying.
And I think that's where the conflict lies. So
Okay, tell me.
Let me try and explain. And Mr. Bridges, you may need to lend your voice to this as well. We would not be in a position to adjust the procurement before the board votes on it. So essentially what you're saying is, let's let somebody review the list, and if they have a concern with a book, we're going to drop that book from the procurement. That's not the process we need to follow. That's not the process outlined in statute. And so I would much rather force the issue and follow the appropriate procedure in having the challenge well documented, and in that way, because we're required by law, to report any books that are challenged and/or subsequently removed to the state at the end of the year under the new legislation. So, again, saying that we would allow somebody to come forward and say, well, we don't like these books, the question I would pose is, without a challenge period or without them following the procedure, how then would we adjust the procurement? How would we remove books from the list? There is no formal process at that point. So that's why I'm recommending we go forward with the process.
Bureaucracy is what it is. It's fine. Everybody can vote accordingly. Thank you.
We also, just for the record too, Lori, we also, according to statute, if we were to push it to adopt in January, we
Yes.
would still have to give the 30 days.
I understand.
And then still give another 30 days.
I understand. I understand. I get it.
Okay. Mr. Nolte.
I think the public needs to be, explain that, because I think if we don't explain that, I think they're gonna, because I've had several people mention it to me, different groups and everything. You definitely, we need to let the public know that that's the statute and what we have to go by. But by explaining that to them first, I think would be very helpful. But I can definitely see their point about, was it 4,000? It was a bunch.
It was 34,000 books.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
state of Florida never took into consideration
That's a lot of
new school opening, which is why the vast majority of those books are books that have already been approved within our school system. It is a small percentage of new books. And the way we were able to filter those was actually the team went back through in both fiction and nonfiction. I'll go ahead and explain this here, so that way it's a matter of public record. They went back through that list and looked at the publication date. So anything that was published and included within a list that's past a certain date period, those are the ones that are highlighted because they would not be in our current libraries. And so that's how we arrived at that number. I believe it's approximately 4,000 books, if I remember the number correctly from the earlier today.
That's why I think that.
But that's significantly less than the 34,000.
Right.
But we are opening 2 new schools. Continuing to delay would absolutely have the potential to impact our ability to have a school library functioning and open by the start of the school year. Because 34,000 books have to be cataloged, barcoded, and accurately placed on the shelves. And so there's a lot of steps that are involved there. But again, ours is not, and I want to be very clear, ours is not a rejection of, or an admonishment of people who want to look at and review our curriculum. It's that there is a formalized process that's outlined in statute. Outside of that, I don't know how to approach and remove items. For example, if we had a science text, we would go through this exact same process to adopt a science textbook. In the absence of that, I don't know how we eliminate a science text without following the procedure. And I think I did send Ms. Wyatt a response. I'd be happy to send it to you and to Ms. Cunningham so you can share it with others. Because again, we're open to the process. That's not the concern. And that's why I'm offering to give them a much shorter list to look at if they want to see the list of books that we know we do not currently have within our libraries.
That's fair.
And then what we could try to do additionally is put it into the same searchable database. So we were working with the parent company today, Follett is who we purchased our materials from, or we're looking to purchase the materials from. They opened, they're 1 hour behind us, so we had to wait till 9 a.m. to get hold of them this morning. We might be able to export that in a manner and put it into a searchable database like we've done in all our elementary, in all of our schools, libraries, so that they can search by title. But there are a lot of new books, and so that's part of it. And I had offered that as an option as well. I mean, we could approve the list of books that currently are in our system and then potentially look at another adoption date for the rest. I don't know how that works with Follett, but we could see. But I would, again, the preference would be to move forward with the adoption, provide the explanation as you've asked for, and then follow those steps as needed. And quite honestly, I think based off what I've seen and what the team is telling me, I don't think that there will be concerns with the books that we're adopting.
Thank you.
Mr. Sharpless.
This is also about O2. I was wondering, Superintendent Hyde, if you could just explain the process that stakeholders have in informing the materials in our libraries, specifically before they're selected. Is there any kind of committees or anything that our stakeholders are currently involved in from a variety of different organizations and that kind of stuff?
No, so the statute requires that we have somebody who's a media specialist, and then they have to complete the training once the training is made available. And that's how the materials are selected. At this time, because not all of our schools have media specialists, that then falls to our district personnel. So there's a team at the district level who work with the school personnel and the building principal to ensure that our selections are appropriate. Post that, the review committee, if a book is challenged, would be inclusive of others to ensure that a book that's being petitioned for consideration for removal or a change in placement is addressed adequately.
So in statute, we are basically required to not have community input at the beginning?
No, it doesn't. It just doesn't specify that.
Okay. Then I'm gonna ask if we can pull that from the consent agenda and put it on as a item.
Okay.
Action agenda, please.
They have got it. And Superintendent Hyde, can you be prepared to explain what the statute is and
Yes, ma'am.
how that 30-day period will push us back significantly for school openings?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Anything else for, I believe we were looking at K through O? Anything else K through O? All right. Anything in section P? And we will, in the next section, we'll talk about the appointments for both Polk County Value Adjustment and Polk County Board of Directors, Polk Vision Board of Directors. Yes.
So I do want to address item 3. Are we still?
Yes, varsity tutors. Yep.
Very good. I'm very excited about the varsity tutors. Going back and looking at that list, we've got 42 schools that we've targeted, and I was just maybe as a recommendation, and I floated this over to Superintendent Hyde in a brief conversation and mentioned that we can maybe pilot in some way, but I'd mentioned Bill Duncan opportunity. I'm not sure how many students currently they're serving. I was thinking approximately 90 students. And, looking at the contract for the varsity tutors, I think it's $10 per student per year, I think is what that contract was breaking down to, and just wanted to bring that forward as an opportunity. I don't know if that really dramatically changes the contract. I don't know if you want to speak to that, Superintendent Hyde, but I do know that we have tried to put iPads in the hands of students at Bill Duncan. They had been working on laptops, and now they have just upgraded to iPads. But just wanted to put that out as an option.
We could inquire. We'd have to determine how many students would participate, and then see what the parent company might be willing to do, either through a voluntary pilot, or they may feel that there's enough concurrent licenses within the current project that they may not feel that adding another 50 students would be that impactful. But I would have to have a conversation with them.
Okay.
But I will get you an answer.
Mr. Sharpless.
Appropriate on action agenda items, are we going to be discussing these during during the board meeting?
We typically do not discuss, we typically discuss them here if we have any questions. And if we have questions or something that we'd like the superintendent to address during the board meeting, that's when we just have him address it. But if you have comments.
We have just general comments and support?
if you have comments in support, you are more than welcome to. So I'll ask for a motion, a second, and then any discussion. So it sounds like you'll be raising your hand tonight
Yes,
unless
I will
we
be.
get the tech fixed. But we will let you know before the meeting. But yes, you can make comments. at this time.
So the question is, then I have on two different items. First, P3. Can we confirm that these, I believe these are being funded through ESSER funds, correct?
Correct.
And for the public knowledge, can we just, Superintendent, can you explain what ESSER funds are used for, just so they understand? Like, and where that's coming from? That's all, that's a question I have.
We have on multiple occasions provided the presentations specific to ESSER funding, but I'd be happy to remind the community of what ESSER funds, where they came from.
And then on P5, will I have the opportunity to discuss my appointment or the appointment that I'm making?
So I was just getting there.
Oh.
Will he be here this evening? Do you know?
I do not know yet.
Okay. Most of them don't come, but I like to ask before. So if he can't come, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But so if he is going to be here, just let me know so that we know to recognize him. But normally whoever's appointee it is will make the motion. And then someone will second, and then you'll have during discussion, I'll call on you first to say a few words about him if that will work.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions on P? All right, Q, public hearing. And I actually have a question on this one because Q1, we sent it back, but I don't believe we ever got a presentation on the updated version of this for Q1 with the new 21C. And this presentation was added later, so I just got, in looking at it, it looks like some revisions have been made, but not.
Ms. Usher, yes, ma'am.
Yes, at the work session, staff was directed to look at the area close to Chaina Lakes and to try to keep those students at Chaina Lakes instead of sending them to 21C. So we did do that, and so we have it as option 3A. Those students, I think it's Sundance and Villana, they're within 1.5 miles of Chaina Lakes. So this option 3A does show those students staying at Chaina Lakes. We did not have to bring it back to you to accept that because we're not making 21C boundary bigger. We're keeping students at Chaina Lakes.
So I'm concerned about that it wasn't brought back to us in a work session.
Well, the thing is, it was advertised for first reading today and adoption hearing in January. If we bring it back, then we'll have to re-advertise. Mr.
So, well,
I'd like to hear.
to be clear, Mr. Bridges, if you give me a moment, to be clear, staff followed the directive of the board. They fulfilled the directive of the board. As such, I would side with Ms. Usher that there was an unnecessary requirement to bring it back to the board to delay it even further. We met the board's expectation. We didn't modify it, we met it, which was maintaining the integrity of that neighborhood immediately adjacent to the school. And so by virtue of being able to accommodate that, and I know that there's a lot of concerns out in the community continuing about traffic, but I spoke to Mr. Sharpless about this because he's hearing a lot, because that's his community. The reality of it is, you can't tell me you want to keep more kids in the school and then somehow I have to fix the traffic congestion problem. This initial proposal took 300 students out of Chain of Lakes. Yet the board said, and gave us a directive, they were not satisfied with the zoning option simply because the neighborhood immediately across the street was being split in half. So we took it to the boundary of that neighborhood. That returned 100 and...
It's 84. Those two developments were 84. And we did discuss it with the attendance boundary committee.
And so that's, just to be clarified, that's why it wasn't brought back. But in the future, we would be more than happy to.
Well, and my concern is that it was not brought back to us, but we also, the maps are not in a form that we can read them or see what the roads are, which we've repeatedly asked for. So those are my concerns. If I can get maps before the board meeting that are legible, then I'm happy to take a look at those and vote to support it. But those are my concerns with the process.
And Chairman Wyatt, the boundaries come back in January 24th for another
For the
public
vote.
hearing.
So this is just
This is the first reading. because it's like lawmaking.
Right.
So this is the first reading, and it comes back January 24th for adoption.
Right, and I understand that. I just am concerned that we had a first reading without going over what they actually looked like, because that was not my understanding my understanding was it was coming back for a workshop before it went to a first reading. So that's my concern.
Okay.
Any other questions on Q? All right. Superintendent's report? You will have a report?
I will.
Attorney's report?
Just Merry Christmas.
All right, you will have a report. Miss Matthews, do you have a report? No report tonight, just Merry Christmas. All right, and then we'll go through board members' reports. So just so you know, Mr. Nolte and Mr. Sharpless, normally we either go in district order starting at 1 or starting at 7, mainly because Miss Miller sometimes argues that she doesn't get to go first, and people that in seats 1 through 6 see all of her good news, so occasionally we throw her a bone. But so we'll go through 1 through 7 tonight, so, and that'll be your opportunity to share anything you're feeling like. And then we'll have our public comments and then adjournment. Any questions on this evening's agenda? All right. So we will go back to the work session. And then I have in new business the committee appointments, and I will pass those out. And we can go through them. I appreciate you all getting these to Yvette. I think that's enough for this side. So just going through, audit and finance will be Miss Cunningham. It's always amazing to me too how it typically works out that everyone gets either their first or second choice, sometimes both their first and second choice, and we typically don't have very many things that we have to ask people to sit on that were not on their original lists. So audit and finance will be Miss Cunningham. Sales tax oversight will be Mr. Nolte. The value adjustment board we'll talk about in just a minute. Polk County Head Start will be Lisa Miller. Polk Education Foundation will be Lisa Miller. Calendar Committee will be Ms. Fields. Academic Committee will be Dr. Allen. Facilities and Operations Committee will be Ms. Fields. Polk Vision Board of Directors we'll talk about in a minute. Polk Vision Operating Board will be Justin Sharpless. FSBA Board of Directors is currently William Allen. He rolled up when Ms. Fortney rolled off the board, and then Justin Sharpless for the alternate. And then, of course, FSBA advocates, those are through June 30th, so we'll vote to re-up those at our June meeting. And then Central Florida School Board Coalition. Mr. Nolte, would you be willing to serve on that one? It's just you. That was one of the only ones that no one put down on their list.
As long as I can get some assistance if I need it.
Absolutely. We
Want to put it?
can make sure. It sounds like Dr. Allen may have some availability in the spring, so he may be able to serve as an alternate as well. That's what I heard a few minutes ago.
Thanks for volunteering.
And then Dr. Allen for junior achievement. And then, so going back to Polk Vision Board of Directors and the Polk County Value Adjustment Board and alternate are both to be nominated and voted on by the board. So is anyone interested in serving on the Polk County Value Adjustment Board? We are working on finding out, so they actually just had a meeting on December 5th, which was a Monday. And we are looking for their meeting schedule, but my guess would be Monday evenings, because that's what it looked like for the first one.
I'd be willing to serve on that.
All right, so we'll have,
If it's evening
if it's
meeting.
evenings, and we will double check on that on the break. But so Justin Sharpless for the Value Adjustment Board. And then is anyone interested in being the alternate?
Sure, I will.
Lori will be the alternate. The next one is the Polk Vision Board of Directors. I will say I have served on that one the past 2 years. I would love to continue to serve on it, but if someone else is interested, I also would be willing to give someone else an opportunity. That's just one of the things that I've gotten really involved in is in my time on the board. So if no one else is interested, I'm happy to take that one again. But if someone else.
And I hear you've got plenty of time on your hands as well, so.
Right. Yes, of course, Dr. Allen. Does anyone else have interest in board of directors? Okay. So those motions will be updated on the agenda for this evening. So the Academics Committee and the Facilities and Operations Committee, I confirmed with Mr. Hyde last week, 2 weeks ago, that he still does have, we had talked about doing it last year. Time just got away from us, but he does have intentions of starting those up in the spring coming fiscal year. So if you have questions, he is your point person.
And I think we need to spend a little bit of time on this in a subsequent workshop, and we may chunk them. But it's also important for us to get the definition for each one of these committees redone. Ms. Vega and the team are looking for the original contracts, their mission statements, but many are missing. And some are not driven by us at all, and some are reliant upon county guidelines. So I think it's important for us moving forward to provide more clarification, especially now with new board members and a lot of committees being changed, that we take the time to redefine our purpose and intention in each committee, and also revisit the frequency in which they meet and the outcomes, deliverables that are expected. And so that's very common with committee structures. We unless Ms. Vega is able to secure those, they may very much be considerably out of date and no longer reflect how we now interpret that committee to function or its needs. So that, again, I think it's important for us to bring that back in February or March for the committee review. But given the number of committees, we'll take it in pieces. And we'll prioritize. I'll work with Chair Wyatt to help prioritize several committees, especially those that do not currently have a formal structure.
Any other questions on committee?
Sorry, their charter. It's called their charter. Sorry.
Any other questions on committees? Seeing none. So typically after we go through the agenda, we'll open it up to any new business or board reports on committees that you're liaisons for. So obviously, if you're a liaison to an organization, we hope that you bring that information back and don't just keep it to yourself. So I know that Justin and Mr. Nolte may not have any since they just got their first committee assignments. But Ms. Cunningham or Dr. Allen, do you have anything from your current committees? None from Ms. Cunningham. Dr. Allen, anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a brief update with junior achievement. Again, we're still taking baby steps on that process, and I don't know how much, Superintendent Hyde, you want to speak to potential sites along the way that we've discussed. But we do have a planned walkthrough. Hopefully, we get it on the calendar pretty quickly on a couple of those sites. And there, basically, we really need to solidify that budget in regards to capital and operational. And from there, State Rep Bell, she'll be initiating the sponsorship committee structure to really move that forward from the private standpoint. I think she's looking at probably 8 to 10 members that will be serving on that sponsorship committee. They're looking for about 18 to 20 sponsorship storefronts, and they're looking at about $15,000 to $40,000 per year per sponsor for the Junior Achievement BizTown and Finance Park. So that's just a brief update on that one.
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Any updates? Do any of you want to update from FSBA? I know several of you attended. In your board report? Okay. All righty. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, with that, we will adjourn, and we do have discipline at 4, correct?
No,
we do not have any discipline today, so we will be back here at 5 o'clock.